Welcome to Growing the Region, a podcast brought to you by Recycled Media that spotlights inspiring stories of resilience, leadership, and triumph within the blue-collar economy. Meet your host, Jake Bronstein. He's not just passionate, he's on a mission to unearth the invaluable lessons learned from the unsung heroes of the blue-collar economy. With a track record that includes founding a recycling company, Jake knows firsthand the challenges faced by entrepreneurs who have weathered the storms. Prepare yourself for a deep dive into the wisdom of accomplished operators as we uncover the invaluable lessons that have paved the way for their remarkable success stories.
So I'm here this morning with Art Mandell, president of National Reckoning Company, and we're here to kind of discuss how you got started, how the family business got started, where you are today, and what you see the future in the demolition business, and also your story, because it's quite interesting. So how did you get into the business? How did your family start?
Just picking up junk from the alleys and the steel mills, and we had one of those pickup trucks with the plywood on the sides and loaded up junk day and night and sold it. And when we were done, Grandma got the money instead of the tavern.
And your dad started in the business when he was 12, right? That was when he started scrapping.
The whole family was scrapping during the Depression.
And so your dad grew up during the Depression era on the south side of Chicago, right, on the east side?
Yes.
And so his father died when he was 12, when basically Red came in, and along with he had three other brothers. Right?
He had four brothers.
Four brothers.
And when Gramps died in 1944,
yeah,
they had to
fend for themselves.
That's right.
And so there, you guys got into it. So you're doing cleanup jobs, oddball jobs. I've heard that he harvested mill scale and slag.
Strictly scrap jobs without equipment. Picking through mill byproducts that weren't of any value to the mill. They were value to those guys. They could sell slag products to scrap yards, and that's how they made their money.
And then I think it was in 1950 they bought like their first big piece of equipment.
They had a truck and delivered some coal.
Okay.
And had a truck with no windshield. And started automating.
Yeah, and then National Wrecking was founded a little bit after that, right?
Incorporated in 1954.
And that was the start. And what was the first? And so 1954. What was the business environment like?
The first job was I wasn't there then. But the first job was there's some scrap, but you had to dismantle it now. You couldn't just pick it up and put it in the truck. You had to wreck something and process it to get it in the truck.
What was their first major job?
Just more slag operations. You get a piece of equipment or a winch, and you could do more than just lifting with your back.
Sure.
So they got a little automated picking and reclaiming slag products.
From there, I guess, how did it progress? Obviously the company was built into a powerhouse. In the 70s, 80s, 90s, and early 2000s, and even still today, you're one of the largest privately owned engineered demolition firms in Chicago. So from 1954 to now, what was the first significant investment that you guys made where it was like, okay, this is going to put us on the map, this will differentiate ourselves?
There was a lot of small investments along the way, whether it's getting a new truck or a loader, but the big investment came, we bought a big crane. No one had a crane that big. Mm-hmm. And we wrecked the Chicago Stockyards with that crane.
Okay.
And that gave us an advantage. We had this big crane.
Yeah. I think that's a good barrier to entry, because then your competitors, that forces your competitors to get the same asset base that you do. And whether or not they can perform the same type of a work, it gives you pricing power in the market, right? Because you have that crane and you could charge what you want, or at least back then.
Well, that's right. We could do stuff cheaper and better with that equipment. I think that's a picture of it there too.
That's a picture of the crate.
Right.
That's pretty cool. And your father was the head of it, but obviously a family business. And as he's grew into it, there was a lot of diversification over the years, whether it be real estate, banking, the commodities business.
We bought the Chicago Stockyards.
Okay.
And wrecked it.
Okay.
And sold it. 10 transactions over 10 years.
So
we were buying from Swift and Armor.
Okay.
And wrecking the buildings and hoping to sell the land.
That's awesome. And
we've diversified from wrecking tall buildings to rehabbing tall buildings, and not complete wrecking, just interior work. We've diversified to asbestos removal, lead paint removal, underground storage tanks, and various environmental services. That comes with the wrecking business.
Yeah, and you guys have really touched everything from high rises to steel mills, to contaminated industrial sites, nuclear power plants. I mean, is there anything you haven't wrecked?
The Sears Tower. We wrecked for that property for when they built the Sears Tower.
Yeah.
Now we got to get the tower.
And so you talked about the asbestos abatement. Where did Colfax come into play, and how was that born into light?
In the 70s, the EPA started with various asbestos laws. Asbestos was banned, and there became ways to remove it properly. It became an environmental hazard, so there was a need for that asbestos and specifically trained workers, specific company. So we started an asbestos company in 1985.
And then I think that gives you a competitive advantage even today, because you're not outsourcing the work. I think a lot of demolition companies, at least originally, were outsourcing the work for asbestos abatement.
Right.
And if you could keep those costs internally, it gave you the competitive advantage.
No doubt about it.
And so today, in terms of National Wrecking and Colfax, are they pretty much on par with each other in terms of growth? Where do you see the most?
Stuff.
Yeah.
So Colfax is doing real good right now with a lot of environmental stuff. They're primarily public money, a lot of school work, government work, but not exclusively.
As you know, getting into that, which is a segment I wanted to talk about, is that a large part of your customer base is, or it has been the federal government, state government, city government. And I think one of the things that have differentiated you is that you're able to perform these jobs because you've built up your balance sheet, right? It takes a while to get these receivables.
Right.
You got to chase down the money, and it might come in 90 days, it might come in 180 days, it might never come.
Well, up to this point it comes, but it might be 3 months, or something's wrong with your paperwork. And there's the honeymoon stage when the building's on fire and they call you in the middle of the night and you heroically come and safely wreck the building. Then the honeymoon's over and you're trying to collect.
What's it like on the other side? Do you have pretty good relationship, with your counterparts with the city, or I know you deal a lot with railroads too. It must be a difficult. It could be it can be a difficult relationship, but it sounds like you've had some pretty good relationships over the years.
Certainly, and a lot of times it's the individuals you're dealing with, and not necessarily the company, or the outfit, or the construction manager. It's the individuals and trying to get along.
I think one of the things too, where you've had a lot of repeat customers. You've done really well at that. And I think one of the things that you do well at is putting family members on the job sites. You know, when you guys wrecked Main Scrap Metal after the fire, you know, Uncle Mo was on the job site. How important is that to you, that this is a family-run business?
We're real big on supervision, a non-working supervisor. He's there to make sure that the contract gets carried out. These guys don't kill each other. The job gets performed safely and properly. So at one time there was a family member on every job. Some family members have retired or left, and we no longer have a cousin or an uncle on every single job, but we're still very hands-on, and we still have that non-working supervisor with experience on every single job.
I think it's nice too, because I mean, at the end of the day, you have to trust family, right? You have to you have to put people in place that you trust. And obviously, just like the scrap metal business, you know, demo site, you could have a lot of theft too. Equipment, tools, scrap metal going missing. So I think that's an important key to it, because, you know, shit could definitely walk off.
Oh, we got to watch the store. We can't let the scrap metal see the sky, see the stars. It'll oxidize. It'll be gone the next day. And we've had to get rid of men, better men than yourself, due to theft.
No doubt about that. I think also going back to it too is managing the stores. I think that's the common denominator, would you say, in what has led to your guys' success. Is it doesn't matter whether it's real estate, banking, demolition, you guys manage the store and watch those coins.
Well, my secrets.
Yeah.
You wake up early and you stay late. That's kind of a shitty secret, but that's what it takes.
Yeah.
And the more stuff you're subbing out and putting in the hands of others, the less control you have and the less certainty.
That's true. I think I wanted to talk about the economic cycles, because you guys have done really well at them. I mean, when there's high interest rates and low interest rates, that kind of has made your guys' decision to find distressed deals, right? Your dad would say, you know, we take a shitty business and we make a valuable property. And whether it be in 1973 with the oil embargoes, or 1987 when the stock market crashed, or 2000 with the dot-com era, and then the Great Recession, it seems that you guys have always found opportunities among different asset classes and businesses that were opportunistic, and that you got, you know, properties or businesses at a good value. And I think, like, putting yourself in a position to do well. And I think the one thing too is, like, with all the diversification, it's, you know, we're
staying away from the tavern with our earnings, putting it in the company, and trying to protect the family jewel. There's been other businesses or properties bought and sold, but this is the main thrust.
Speaking of which, I wanted to kind of touch on Essex trading and how you guys got into, you know, the physical commodity side of the business, and because now you've seen it from both ends, right? Within the recycling stream, you were a supplier in terms of generating scrap metal and selling it to end consumers and scrap dealers, but when you actually traded the products, not only different grades of ferrous scrap commodities, but also, you know, finished product, whether it be plate, HRC, and those types of finished steel product. How did that present itself?
We started a different company with some young people in the steel business, and they didn't want to put any money up. We put up all the money, and it turned out to be very successful. These guys were
Yeah.
So we had within scrap, within usable stuff, and the customer itself at the steel mills, and that helped get the wrecking company more work, and we had some good guys buying and selling these various scrap commodities at different mills, and it worked out well.
That's awesome. I think it's good experience too, and as I was saying to Nick before, is that you guys are very good operators where you really know your costs. Like if you're on a job site, you'll tell me exactly what your trucking cost is. Jake, I'd love to sell you the scrap, but it's going to cost me too much. I think that's such an important thing to really know what your inputs are as an operator, and to really, because a lot of people don't know what their operating expenditures are, like their true cost of doing business. How important is that in the demo world?
Well, you got to be careful. It's not the cost isn't always dollars and cents and nickels and dimes. Today I'm a little between jobs. I got some guys at the yard painting and pulling weeds, and that doesn't pay, and that's a bad cost. But in the big picture, I got some skilled key people that are not generically replaced. They're going to go work for my competitor if I don't keep these guys going. So that's part of it, is the cost and having the right people in the right spot.
Yeah.
That's everything.
I think you and I have had a lot of conversations since 2020, basically. Mainly me bitching to you as my therapist about labor and just the turnover. Do you see that getting any better?
For the scrap yards, no. I pay top dollar.
Right.
You know, we're paying $49 an hour.
Right.
And we don't want nobody that nobody didn't send. So I know everybody that comes here. I know where they came from, and we're the hiring hall here, and we know everybody that's in the company, and that's good with the small part in the family business. We'll know all the workers and weed out the bad guys.
I think that's what I like too, is within our company, I could go around and I know every employee's name, and I know what they're good at, I know what they're capable of. And one of the things that you just touched on is putting your aces in their spaces, what people are good at, so that they could perform and do well for the company. I think the other testament to you is you've had companies
Their fathers have worked here as operators.
Yeah. No, it's...
and I was at their weddings,
right.
You know, and I send them the certified letters when these guys are not behaving. So there's, we're not the only family in the family business.
Right. It's nice to have like a generation of people where the culture has been working at National Wrecking, that bond. And, I knew some of the operators that you're referring to, and great guys. I mean, just like loved the company. And I think on your part too, I think from a leadership standpoint, you're no bullshit. You drive a hard bargain and you have high expectations, but at the same time you can be compassionate too.
Well, we do what we have to do.
And how did you get into the business?
I have a civil and environmental engineering background, but as a youth, for my bar mitzvah, I got a pair of work boots and a hard hat when I was 13. And I came here all summer, and I started stacking bricks, piling iron, salvaging glass blocks, salvaging lamps, various stuffs, lighting, and you could always take advantage of my cheap labor and do a little more. And so I worked my way up to shoveler,
right,
greaser, crane operator, licensed crane operator for many years, and supervisor. And as I got older, when we grew, we needed another guy in the office. So now I'm estimator, holler man, and whatever else is involved.
I would say too, what I enjoy talking to you about is we're both in operations, boots on the ground.
I always like the dirt.
Yeah, me
and
too.
I like getting up early, and never was for any cruel and unusual treatment like working with a roof over your head. What could be worse for somebody to have a damn roof over your head at work? So I always embraced sweating, freezing,
right? The elements,
the elements, and the different type of work, and I always enjoyed that. And it's not for everybody.
No, it's not. I think what we do is not for everyone, and especially being an operationally intensive business. I mean, the risks are real. I mean, shit could go sideways quick, and from your day, if something doesn't go right, it can screw your entire project schedule up. I mean, it's just a mist, right? You get a flat tire, a machine goes down. How do you respond to that? I mean, when you were younger, did you get more upset than you do now, or do you still have the same fire?
We still get upset, but we're focusing on moving forward and getting the pieces back together.
The solution.
And there's broken hoses and flat tires and broken cables, which is a different league than worker injuries and things like that.
Yeah.
So there's different ways of different issues we're with all the day, and if it's just rubber and metal, we can fix it and keep going.
Speaking of maintenance and downtime, you guys have your own maintenance department here. You guys have wrenching on your own.
Yeah, we'll have a shop doing maintenance and certain repairs to the equipment.
And your dad loves the maintenance shop. I mean, because I think from my viewpoint, from your viewpoint, in our viewpoint, maintenance is a huge operating expenditure. I mean, when you start to farm this out and you have guys coming in on lab.
Program with the dealer, or we'll have our own guys that'll keep everything running.
What and speaking of equipment, the demolition business has changed a lot, specifically with hydraulics and shears and mechanized processing. How's it really involved? Where do you see the demolition business going in terms of technology and equipment?
It's becoming more specialized.
Mm-hmm.
Every job you walk onto, you need specific equipment for this job, different than that job, and we can't buy new equipment for every job. So we try to do what we could with what we have, and sometimes you get into a high reach or shears, and that's all this equipment could do. It's specialized, and so then you need more equipment if you want to get into diversified work, which is offices or interior work versus industrial demolition.
So right now we're at an interesting part of the cycle to where interest rates are really high, right? There's not a lot of old buildings that are coming down, and new construction starts are much slower than what they were 3 years ago or 2 years ago. It's a different time in the cycle. Are you seeing most of the work now being interior that's going to keep?
Downtown there is no total wrecking downtown, very little of that. So there's been a lot of interior work. The schools, they're steady with a lot of interior work. But the city's got very little wrecking for purposes of rebuilding a new building.
We've talked about it too, with just these loans that are coming due on these commercial properties. A lot of these owners are underwater on it. I think it's going to be a huge opportunity for operators such as yourself, because these assets are going to come down and it's going to be a total demolition because they're not worth their current net asset value, what's booked on the balance sheet of the banks. So you're talking a year or 2 years out when the cycle changes, what do you do to ramp up? How are you thinking about things?
It's a one step at a time deal. We're not going to pick up the Wall Street Journal and have an idea and go buy a bunch of stuff. But as the work keeps coming and it becomes profitable, we'll keep engaging in it and trying to get better.
One of the things I wanted to ask you too is that you guys have been through various economic cycles. 1973 and the 80s, the dot-com bubble, the Great Recession, 2020, right? That was a shit show. What's your advice to business operators within this space, whether it be recycling companies or demolition companies?
Those were some of our good years that you're mentioning were bad years. So sometimes it's let's wreck all these buildings and get them off the tax rolls.
Okay.
Sometimes maybe there's a fire or something that could stimulate a job here and there. Interest rates low, you're talking about, someone's going to wreck a building and invest in a new building, but there's all kind of reasons something can get torn down and not necessarily to build a new building.
What do you do though when your approach when you start to see like the writing on the wall, right? The economy's slowing.
You got to let people go. You got to lower your costs. It's painful. You could we're humans. We try to pick the best guys on the team. Sometimes you let the wrong guy go. Sometimes you pick the wrong guy to stick around. And you got to be bare bones.
Yeah.
Tighten up on your overhead and all the wasteful spending. You got to hold back on that.
What's your words of advice to a young operator right now that's in the demolition business, where it's kind of this uncertain time?
You just got to stay the course, and you put this much in, you get this much out. You put this much in, you get this much out.
You get what you put in.
Yeah.
What do you still find exciting about the job? What keeps you going?
It's the personal thing with the customers.
Mm-hmm. The relationships.
Yeah, you're meeting guys and they think you're full of shit. Then you kick some ass and they're feeling good and the job's done and everybody's happy.
I'm
not saying that anything ever goes the way it's supposed to, but the best is, I'll get excited when someone's happy with a job well done and we get paid. But it's all part of the cycle,
Right.
And from that initial phone call to getting your last dime, and dealing with that part of the job.
Yeah, the complete cycle, coming from like the opportunity all the way to
And
fruition.
as an estimator, we're in the sales department, we're in the bill collection department, the project manager department. It's like that with a family business.
Yeah.
So I'll really follow it through until we're paid in full.
A lot of different hats.
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's like, if it's like the scrap business too, is that every day is different. No day is the same. And you're wearing a lot of different hats. You're dealing with a lot of different aspects of the business.
No doubt.
And which keeps you stimulated. And I get to talk to guys like you. You may not want to talk to me, but I want to talk to you.
Usually not, right. But when I need something, I know who to call.
Right. You need a vendor referral or a cheap truck, you can call me. I think, one of the things that I admire about you, I think, is the work ethic, consistency, and the humility. And I think the humility aspect allows you to be relatable to your guys. And even as things have, I think even as things have changed for you, your family, personally, I don't think you've ever forgotten who you are. And I think that's such an important lesson, because there's so many guys, once they make a buck, or women that once they make a buck, they're showcasing, and they're no longer relatable. How important is that for you? Yes,
I would. Well,
Yeah.
Yeah, I know some folks, and as soon as they can get enough dough for a down payment on a foreign car, they're out of here. and they got their proverbial ponytail and convertible, driving around, and that's not what we're for. We're just like to put the money in the mattress and be low key and keep going.
Watch the paint dry.
Right.
I appreciate it, man. Thank you for meeting with us and talking to us. I really wanted to talk to you because I think it's achievable, right? What you guys have done for the next generation of entrepreneurs that want to get into the demolition space. What would you say to them? What words of advice would you say if they were starting a demolition company? What would you say? Where would you tell them to start?
You got to start young, of course.
Right.
And there's really Purdue University has a demolition program, but it's really nothing. You go to school and learn how to wreck a building. You're hands-on for years and years, and you're getting experience a little bit at a time, and then it's just one step at a time.
Yeah, I think most people find it intimidating because they might see how many assets you have if you walk through your yard, right? Or they see your trucks on the road, and they say, how do I even start? How do I compete? But I think it starts with an idea. It starts with that first truck, like what your father did and his brothers, and it snowballs. And I think for me, when I started my business, I got really caught up in what other people had. And I realized, well, that's 4 generations sometimes, 100-year-old businesses of people suffering and going to work every day. Mm-hmm. And I can't expect to be in the same place in 3 years as they are right now. And I think that's the problem probably with my generation, is that like this instant gratification, right? You could order anything online and it gets here the next day, or you can.
Oh, the young people, hell, I've been here 2 years. I'm not supposed to be here 2 years. I got to get out of here. And not necessarily mad at the companies. Young people are more likely to, switch around, and I don't know if they're chasing their tail or looking for something different. But here we got Cheryl's retiring after 31 years. Anna's been here for 110 years, and everybody else has as well.
Yeah. What do you think your key is in retaining your employees for so long? I think they like us. Yeah.
You want to get paid. You want to be any job somewhat close to home, a different commute. I can't help that.
Right.
That's brutal. The commute getting here, but no matter how much you're making, if you got a shitty work environment, you're not going to enjoy that, and you're not going to last too long. So everybody comes back. There's that we're hollering and screaming, but there's that family comfort here all the time.
Yeah. I would say so too. I mean, I've dealt with them on the accounts receivable side, following up with Tanya and asking about load reconciliations, and I have to say, like, you're people in the front office and really care about the company.
Yeah.
They want what's best for it, and I think that's good culture, right? You care about them, and they care about you.
Right.
Well, Art, thank you. We appreciate your time.
All right.
We'll get out of your hair. You can go on with your day.
Wonderful.
Thank you.